Welcome back, CSE 121, to part 2 of our EX16 checkerboard. And we're picking up right where we left off, and what we're going to do is modify our bottom row function and copy it and make it into a new function called shifted row. So to modify this, we can just highlight this and copy it, and instead of calling it bottom row, I'll just call it even row. Maybe I'll call it shifted, because I called it shifted when I first did it. So now we could do one for the shifted row. Now we're going to have to reset the x to be negative 150 so it moves over. So I think I could do the same thing here. I think you could even just repeat this and put the same thing there, because this you need it to where it's going to start, but this is actually after it runs through. This is the reset. So this is kind of the reset. I'll even put a comment here that this is the reset. This resets the x. And the y is not going to start at negative 200. The y is also going to start at negative 150. And this, I think, could be the same. I think it's still going to just jump up 100 each time. So we're just kind of, we're adjusting the start point, and this is the reset point. So I could just put, start point, because it has a new start point, and these are both start points. It's called shifted row. Now, I'm going to need another call here to run the shifted row. So now it's actually going to run two functions. So let's see what happens. Here comes our shifted rows, and that's exactly what we want. So by copying these two functions here, we just made and it doesn't mean that there wouldn't be a way that you could combine them all together. It was easier to kind of just focus on one row. And again, we didn't do white squares either. We're just doing the black squares. Now to make this look nice and clean at the end, what we could do is we could just draw one more square. So what I did on the other one, without having to drag this out too long, is I actually made a function to draw one big square. And let me just copy this and go through it. Now there's obviously a square being created in there, so that's part of it. And let me copy all of this kind of stuff here just to kind of speed things up. So after this, and I'll just take you through it. I created a new square, and I called it draw big square. And it's going to have his pen up because he's still going to have to go to. And I just did a go to. I didn't set any, because I don't have a global XY set. So I just put it in kind of absolute and just said, hey, go down there and draw a big square, and then put your pen down and then draw it. And I put his pen color as black and his fill color. We're kind of doing it separate here. And for my fill color, I actually did something called RGBA. And notice it is in quotes here. It's RGBA, and this is the R, which is red. And actually, I don't want this. I think I made a red one. But it doesn't matter what color it is, because the last thing here is A, which is alpha. And the alpha is down to 0. If it was 100%, it would be 1. If it was half opacity, it would be 0.5. But we're going to put it at 0.0. So it's going to draw a big square with a pen color black. It's also going to do begin fill and end fill. And then here it draws a square. And instead of 50, it's actually going 400. So 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400. So each side is going to be 400. That's why we have 400, and it's still 90. And we're still going to have the begin fill, end fill, because I think if we don't do a fill, I don't think it really, I could take these out here, but I don't think it let me kind of, or not that, or even this. I could check it out and see what happens. I could try by just doing pen color and see if that works, but I think I had an issue where if I didn't have a fill, it didn't put a line on it. But we'll see what happens when I do this. Now, also what I did is because it was outline, I called him Al for outline. So I made a new turtle instead of using Bill, because Bill was drawing kind of a black turtle. But I mean, we could try doing it with Bill first. Here, before I mess around with this. We may have other issues with Bill based on the way he was created. It was kind of easier to make a new turtle, but just in case, now I'll right click on here and say command palette, and I'll do add line comment, and then we could right click and take that away too. This thing again is called draw big square. So I'll copy that. I'll put it down here. I'll put my function call down here. Draw a big square. Let's try it with Bill. Let's just see what happens with Bill. But I think I had issues with Bill where it was easier to just use another turtle. So let me see what happens. Now again, here's our function. Draw a big square, pen up, because it's going to start in the middle like all turtles do. and it's going to go down to 200, 200, which is like the way the other ones went. And then it's going to put his pen down, and his pen color's black, and then it's going to draw around here. So let's see what happens. Let's see if it works without the fill. Now there's our rows. Those are the bottom rows, and there's the even rows or shifted rows. And there's about, actually that worked. So I didn't need all that other stuff. I just had to give them a pen color of black. So I can actually get rid of these. There's less code that I need in there, and that's good. And I had no problem with, I didn't need Al, so everything's okay. So actually this works out better because less code here. All this stuff I commented out. So it's a lot cleaner than the first time I did it because I was doing a lot more experimenting the first time around. So again, just to review our code, we brought in Bill. He's a turtle. He has a speed of 0, so this goes fast. And we hit him from the start so we don't have to see him. And we made one black square. Draw square function, very easy. Pen down, begin fill, end fill, and we loop it 4 times. We loop the side 4 times, and that draws one of our squares. Then we made a bottom row, which we set a start point of bottom row. So we had a start point of bottom row of down here. So it drew that. And that's in it. And what we did here is we took that draw square and we put it in a loop, so it did it 4 times. And it drew one row of 4 squares. And then we took that entire loop and we put it in another loop, which basically added 100 to the y. So it went up here and created this row, added 100. We did the odd rows first, starting with the bottom row, and did those 4 rows. And that's what this does. That shifts it up. And the negative 200 here is a reset for our x. And I think down here I called it a reset. It was a reset so that it would bring it after this first row's done, it would bring the x back to negative 200 again. Otherwise, it was stair-stepping up on the right side. So, and once we got that working, we just copied that function and just made some adjustments. Just moved the x over to 150, moved the y over to 150 to negative 150, and put our reset in there. We still had to do a reset. Notice we had, here's our x and here's our reset x, and here's our increment y. And our increment y was the same. We still just increment y 100 because it's doing this row and then it's going up to there 100, 100, 100. And it's resetting the x at negative 150 each time. So that's what we did. And there's our draw square is embedded in there. And then the last thing was just drawing one big square. Pen up, go to 200, 200. Put the pen down, make the pen color black. And go ahead and draw a big square. And that's it. And we drew, and we actually made 3 functions here. Now, if you're like, well, we're calling 3 functions. I guess you could do this. You could say, I guess you could call them all like that if you wanted to. If you thought it was, calling 3, there was a problem with calling 3 functions. So if you wanted to just do this, and I don't think we need a turtle to do this. I think we could just call the function. So that way, if we have just one function call, let's see if that works. And that's fine. That worked fine. We just threw our 3 functions in there, just made our code a little cleaner because we have one place to run. We don't have to do that. So if we change anything else, we know to go down here. So this is kind of our main function down here. So that's it. That's checkerboard. That's EX16. That wasn't too bad. In fact, it was easier the second time around because I found out, every time you go in to look at your code, you'll find things that maybe I don't need that, or maybe this could be more efficient. So that's a good thing that we did that. So that's EX16, checkerboard. Again, just share it, copy your code to coursework, and you're all done.